Hi there, everyone. I can't wait to see if I can get a few users in here, a few friends. That's my Terrier Monty over there. Let's share this to start off with. It's uploading to my story as we speak. But let's share it with a few people while we're here. Right, what have we got here? I've got one heart. Shall I start? I could post this later, I suppose. Right, well, I'm going to get started anyway. My name is Julian Radbourne. I live here in the coastal town of Norfolk, here, the coastal town of Cromer, here in Norfolk, in the UK. As I speak, it's coming up to 20 to midnight on the 21st of March 2025. Basically, I just wanted to talk to you about COVID. Because this coming Sunday, the 23rd of March, is the 5th anniversary of the first COVID lockdown here in the UK. Actually, I've got someone here. Hi. If you could, when you come in, if you could, share this. I'm basically here to share a few memories of that time. Back into in 2020, when the world was in big trouble, and I'll warn you now that there is going to be some swearing here, and I see I've lost my view already. So if we go back to the run-up of the COVID lockdown, I mean, excuse me a second. We go back down to the running of the COVID lockdown when it started to become a thing, as it were. I mean, I'm not going to go back into the wheres and whys of how it started, whether it came from a lab or if it came from an animal or whatever. But if we talk about the run-up to the COVID lockdown, like I said, it was a pretty fucking scary time. It really was. I mean, for years I'd been watching those films where, society breaks down through various things such as nuclear war, famine, whatever, alien invasion. I had a strange fascination for watching films and programs where society broke down, when it fell apart, and to see how man reacted to that. I suppose it comes from being a science fiction fan for years. I still am. But when COVID started to spread around the world, that was a really scary time. Excuse me, that's not COVID. anyway, that was a really scary time. And I remember as the news was hitting, news channels, news bulletins on the main channels were all over it. They really were. And that's understandable, but people were watching what was going on, and they were panicking. I'm not sure if the way that some people reacted was the right way. I don't think it really wasn't. But I want to talk about the effect it had on me as well, and my family. I live with two of my brothers. I mean, I've got lots of other brothers and sisters. I'm the youngest of 10, spread over 20 years. But I remember in the lead up to the first lockdown being announced on the 23rd of March 5 years ago, people really had no idea what they were supposed to do, and some were panicking, and some were treating it as a sort of like a big joke, as a big jolly. I mean, I remember, well, we all remember the supermarkets, shelves being cleared, hand sanitizer. You couldn't get that for love nor money. And of course, toilet rolls. Everyone was holding toilet rolls, spending hundreds of pounds on toilet rolls. And some were just treating it as a nice day out, really. But I remember there were two things that I remember that were big contributions to the way COVID was spreading here in the UK. Maybe three. One of them was Crufts. That was held at the dog show. That's held at the NEC in Birmingham. I remember there was talk of that being cancelled. Another one was the Cheltenham Festival. You get thousands of people there. And the third one, I remember there was a big spike in cases in Liverpool area, because I think it was a Champions League game. I think it was at Anfield where Liverpool play. I can't remember. It was a team from Spain that they were playing, but I can't remember what the team was. But Spain had also had a spike in cases, and after thousands of Spanish football fans had come over, there was a spike in cases in the Liverpool and Merseyside area. I did a person who's just joined. You've probably seen what this is about, so I'll just carry on. You can probably sort of like watch the catch up when I post it sometime over the weekend on YouTube or whatever. So like I said, there was a spike in cases. Hi Dave Toner. There was a spike in cases in that area. My area, Norfolk, that was one of the last areas where it really took hold. I remember the day lockdown was announced on the 23rd of March. And I remember going into town in the Cromer to get a few things that I needed. One of them being painkillers. Because I had various injuries that I was working through. I had a bad shoulder. I've had pain in my right knee for years because I had an operation on that. Excuse me, about 15 years ago. And, other things. And let's press that button there. And I remember, this isn't really a thing where I'm going to be saying happy birthday to people. If you check the headline, you'll see what it's about. It's one of the things where I'm talking about COVID and the memories. And I won't be taking on any other co-hosts. I'm just going to be talking about my memories here. Anyway, where was I? In the back on the 23rd of March in 2020. That was the day the lockdown here in the UK was announced. I remember going into town that day to get a few things that I needed, including painkillers, and basically people were panicking. They were going fucking crazy. They really were. And no matter what shop I went to, I could not get the painkillers that I needed. I normally just go for the cheap bargain basement variety because they're just as good as the more expensive ones. They do the same job. But I went everywhere and, I had to get the more expensive ones. And I remember going into my local branch of Morrison's, and it was sort of like a battle royal in professional wrestling, every man for himself. Trolleys everywhere, people everywhere, shelves completely empty. And I remember people going up to one of the managers there, the beleaguered manager, skinny fella standing there, white shirt and black tie. And they kept asking, have you got any toilet rolls? Have you got any hand sanitizer? And he just kept saying no, he didn't have any. But like I said, I managed to get some painkillers. But on a lighter note, one of the shops I went into was QD Stores here in Cromer. I'm looking for the painkillers, and they didn't have any toilet roll or kitchen roll or anything like that either. And there was a young couple there, not younger than me, and the young girl said to the fella, "Oh no, what are we going to do? I've got no toilet roll." And the young fella said, "Well, we better do something. I'm not wiping my ass on a sheet of A4 paper again, not after all the cuts I got." So that was quite funny. But, so I survived that. I survived going into town. Excuse me a minute. I now have two people watching at least, so, perhaps if you could tap the screen, show a few likes. I'm not asking for any gifts or anything. If you want to, you can do it. So like I said, I managed to get home. I got home on that day. And, to find out that Boris Johnson, the then Prime Minister, bargain basement Poundland version of Donald Trump, he was going to be making an announcement that night because things were getting really fucking bad. So I think it was either about 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock that night on all the major channels. Boris made his announcement that he was putting the country into lockdown because of everything that was going on, because the cases were rising, because he didn't want to overwhelm the health service. And I remember I was really, really angry. I was really angry because you, the general public, the people who live in my wonderful country of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, you just couldn't follow the advice, not just of the government, but of medical people. I mean, like I said, for those who've only just joined, I said in the lead up to that lockdown, a lot of people were treating it as a big holiday, as a big joke. They went on day trips everywhere and whatever. And I remember in the local paper on the weekend before, seeing people, queuing outside the chip shops here in Cromer and filling our gift shops, not listening to any advice that they'd been given. And I remember that made me really, really angry. I was mad when Boris announced the lockdown. And I wrote a piece for my blog. Hang on a minute, I'm just going to go and see. I've got the computer behind the phone here. I am going to go onto my blog and see if I can find it for you. And I might read it out for you if I can find it. Give me a few moments. Because, like I said, I'm going to have to go back about 5 years or so. Right, here we go. It was called... it was posted on Monday the 23rd of March. Not long after Boris had announced the lockdown. And I called it Fuck You and the Cars You Drove In On. I'll read it out for you. To all you fuckwits and cockwombles who came to my hometown of Cromer this past weekend, despite the government and the medical types advising you to stay at home. To all those who lined up outside our takeaways and crowded into our gift shops, treating what is a national emergency as a nice day trip to the seaside. Fuck you. I was prepared to put my health at risk for the likes of you. I really wanted to work for companies like Morrisons and Tesco, companies that are crying out for employees, because people like you have treated this whole coronavirus thing like a great big fucking joke. Well, fuck you. I'm glad I didn't get that job at Morrisons, and if Tesco came calling, offering me a job, I'll turn them down. I really don't want to serve people like you because years of experience in retail and customer service industry would go out of the window if you complained to me about not being able to get the items that we always take for granted. So to all you fuckwits and cockwombles who came to my hometown this past weekend, enjoying a nice day out, treating this whole situation as one big joke, fuck you and the cars you drove in on. Like I said, I wrote that just after the lockdown was announced. I do still feel quite angry when I read that now. It's on my blog. The link is in my profile here on TikTok. Let me just get a bit more comfortable. But the bit about working for Tesco and Morrisons, if I can just go back a couple of months before then. I've been unemployed for a while. But in January, I was in hospital having cardioversion. If you don't really know what that is, I was diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat in August 2019. Because I've had a heart condition for a few years before that. And cardioversion is when you go in as an outpatient for the day. They put a couple of things on your chest and shock your heart back into its normal rhythm. And it was after that I started looking for work in earnest again. And having worked in retail off and on since 1995, I tried to get jobs in Morrisons and Tesco and other supermarkets just like that. But I wasn't deemed fit enough, probably because of the heart thing. Even when they were screaming out for people in the run up to the lockdown, excuse me. Anyway, after the lockdown was announced, in the run up to the lockdown, all my face-to-face appointments with my advisors at the job centre and the DWP were cancelled. And because of the government restrictions, I was told I wouldn't have to go to sign on. No offence, people, but I'm not wanting to take a co-host for this. This is a personal thing for me. Like I said, sorry about that, but I'm just sharing views. So where was I? Like I said, in the run up to lockdown, all my face-to-face appointments with the DWP were cancelled because of the restrictions the government were putting in place. And my benefit was going to be paid into my bank account automatically without me having to sign on. So, after lockdown hit, my situation changed. I was due to have a hospital appointment around about the April. It's a check-up after my heart procedure. But that was cancelled, and I was told it'd probably be a telephone appointment sometime. That telephone appointment didn't actually happen until about 9 months after the operation. It'd be around about October time of that year. But so I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. I'm doing this. I haven't got any notes here or anything, so So when lockdown was announced, like I said, I was really, really fucking angry because of everything that had been happening. And after I wrote that piece, which I put on my blog, I sat and watched television for a few hours, and there was a thing on Sky News. It's like a public information thing, and telling you what you should do. You should do this, you should do that, in the event of this, blah 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 blah. And I have to remember, and I'm going to openly admit this, it scared the fuck out of me. It really did. Seeing all this government advice about the pandemic and the sort of thing that was going on and what we, the human race, was facing, it scared the fuck out of me. Like I said at the beginning of this thing, I've watched all those films over the years since I was a kid and all that. Society going to pot, nuclear war, blah, 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 blah. And that scared the hell out of me, seeing that on television in front of me. Shit was getting real. It really was. And then, it's just kind of difficult for me to talk, actually. Because, like I said, I haven't got any notes. I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. You have to excuse me while I pause, because, like I said, the human race hadn't been in a situation like that since the flu epidemic 100 years before. And of course, I was born in 1971, so I only knew about that through the history books. But with the lockdown being announced, I knew that, we were in big trouble. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to catch this thing and die. For underlying health conditions, stuff. I wondered where we as a family, me and my two brothers, were going to do for money. I mean, thank fuck for the furlough scheme. At least my brother Paul got 80% of his wages still paid to him. And at least my brother Mark got a bit more money on his benefit. I didn't. I was still on one of the old legacy benefits, job seekers allowance. I wasn't on universal credit. So we basically just had to try and follow the government's advice, do what the medical types were telling us. But it turns out that the government weren't even following their own fucking advice, were they? Every afternoon about 4:30, we'd watch whatever government minister they could drag out at the time. Put me on the lectern with the two medical types and two experts either side of him. Chris Whitty, Patrick Vallance, and they'd give us the updates and then take questions from the media for a big television that they know how to look into because people weren't allowed to attend these press briefings in person. And of course, Boris went down with it because in the early days of the pandemic, like the twat that he is, he went around shaking everyone's hand. And he went down with it, and apparently it was in a very bad way. So, for the first few weeks after all that, we used to make jokes here about the guest hosts that you'd have in the daily COVID briefings. Eventually, Boris came back, got better, and took over hosting duties. But what we didn't know at the time was that while the government was telling us, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this to stay safe, blah, 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 help protect the health service, clap for carers and the nurses on a Thursday night at 8 p.m. Well, we were told to do all this sort of stuff, social distancing and all that. Those in number 10 in Whitehall were having a nice, jolly time of it, weren't they, with all their parties and, having a bit of fun. We were slagging off Dominic Cummings when he took his little trip up north. But we later find out he kind of knew how inept Boris and his government were. Excuse me a moment. And then you had all the things about the PPE contracts and all that. And that was kind of expected, I suppose, Government needs more PPE. Ministers get their mates involved. And the thing that I was really upset about that was, around about the April of that year, I wanted something else to do. And I started my own podcast. I basically recorded things on my mobile phone, edited with a piece of free editing software on the PC, uploaded it to YouTube and to one of the other file sharing websites. And in one of those, I actually said I thought the government was doing a good job in protecting us, or something like that. I basically said I thought they were doing a good job. Turns out I was wrong. I really was. So eventually, after God knows how many people died, the lockdown restrictions were eased. We had that Eat Out to Help Out thing. And that turns out it didn't help much, doesn't it? You had all the restrictions still in place. People weren't following social distancing. And you were doing bubbles and, you're allowed to be in bubbles or whatever. But the thing that really pissed me off, and was my neighbour. My neighbours. I'm not going to name them. If you know me, you know where I live and who they are. But all the way through COVID, including the first lockdown, they had their grandchildren over there every fucking weekend. no matter what. And that pissed me off because they were putting my life in danger by people coming outside of their bubble. All right, it was their grandchildren. I can understand that. But medical types were giving us advice and telling us we couldn't do that because of the dangers. I mean, I think of probably millions of people around the world who couldn't see their children or their grandchildren because they were following the medical advice. They were still doing that. I'm not ashamed to admit I did seek advice about that. Because like I said, I've got underlying health problems. My brother Mark has underlying health problems. And it felt like they were putting my life in danger. Excuse the camera shaking, dogs scratching. But that really pissed me off. That really upset me. No, I'm not going to co-host. I'm sorry. Let's decline that. Anyway. And that really upset me. So like I said, we got through the thing. But it scared the fuck out of me, it really did. But I think what really annoyed me the most about the whole thing was the anti-vaxxers. I mean, I'm going to tell you a story about a well-known local person. I saw, I used to go into town once a week to pick up a few things when lockdown restrictions were eased. And he's a well-known local person. You could call him a celebrity. You know, he has done things in a certain chosen field. I remember seeing him in one of the stores. No face covering, nothing, and I'm not going to name the store. And the manager there was basically kissing his ass because of who he was. And I remember posting about that on social media, and I got a ton of shit from their family. I mean, his sister-in-law was sort of like demanding a public apology. And his sister, called like spiteful so-and-so. She proved to be a typical anti-vaxxer. You know, the thing that really annoys me about the anti-vaxxers and the COVID, I suppose you could say they're like the Trump supporters as well, is that you just can't have a serious debate with them because they are just so aggressive. And no matter what they say to you or what you say to them, you know, they just won't listen to you. They're right all the time. And this woman, she was one of those. She wouldn't listen to a word that I said. She was really aggressive. Blah, blah, blah. Sent me loads of messages. Oh, because, you know, I said I was annoyed that her brother wasn't wearing a face covering in a public place. And I remember looking at the fella's Facebook page. I do off and on now and then. Not only is he an anti-vaxxer, he's a flat earther as well, so I think that pretty much says a lot, doesn't it, really? But anyway, like I said, I took a load of shit because of that. Because I disagreed with him and her because she was an anti-vaxxer. And I had other people who, you know, would have sent me abusive messages on Facebook and abusive replies. You know, really sort of like, if they said that to me in person, be solid, be right up there, if you know what I mean. So, like I said, the lockdown restrictions were being eased as the year went on. And I started applying for jobs again. And that December, about 6 months after the pandemic became a thing, I got a job in Morrison's working on the tills. But, you know, things were still in a pretty bad way then. Excuse me a second. And, you know, COVID was still a very deadly thing. It was still a very serious thing. And I remember, I think it was Christmas Eve or the 23rd of December, the government announced again that, well, they had been intended to ease the restrictions a bit for Christmas, but they had to change their minds because things were starting to get bad again. And, you know, you couldn't go and visit your relatives or whatever. And I remember people coming in that day, and they were, pardon me, they were just heartbroken. And that was the real people, I mean, not the anti-vaxxers. The anti-vaxxers would have fucking gone against what they were being told to do anyway. And like I said, it was heartbreaking, the stories of some of those people were telling me. I mean, I had no plans to go visit any of my family at Christmas that year anyway. You know, it's just going to be the three of us, me and my two brothers here, and the dogs and the cats. But it really was heartbreaking. So, you know, the Morrison's job is just a short-term thing, you know, working over Christmas. But I made a good enough impression. And, you know, I got taken back on a couple of months later, working in the home delivery department as a picker. And the pandemic was still a thing. You know, most of the shops were still closed. But, you know, and I saw the good and bad of people during that time working there. You know, there's a lot of people still willing to follow the rules and all that. But there were a lot of people who were, frankly, complete fucking idiots. And, you know, I could go on and on about how people fucked up. The fact is, a lot of people fucked up during the pandemic because we just didn't know how to handle it. I mean, I think I was lucky that I did catch COVID while I was at Morrison's. I forget exactly when it was. And it did lay me low for a while, but there were people there who thought they had COVID, just went about the normal business instead of following the company rules and ended up giving it to other people, and so on and so forth. But like I said, Sunday, tomorrow now it is, because it's 12:15 here in the UK. It's the 5th anniversary of the COVID lockdown. And the COVID inquiry over the past however long it's gone on has shown that the people who were meant to be looking after us really had no fucking idea. And I thought they did have an idea. And it saddened me, all the people that died unnecessarily. because the government had no fucking idea. So, I'm really not sure what more I can say about this. I mean, it sort of makes me think to this day. I mean, I didn't know anyone personally who died of COVID. I know a hell of a lot of people who had it. And I also know a lot of people who are still getting it now. I could tell you the story about how... No, I won't tell you that one. Chances are this story would get back to those people, but I will just say this. I hope that all the people, not just in this country, but around the world, who died of COVID will be remembered. Because I'm pretty sure it's not just the British government that failed. There are other people around the world that failed. I mean, you just have to go and look at what Trump said, some of the things he said during that time. I mean, I remember that thing he said about, well, bleach is meant to kill COVID. Maybe we could find a way of injecting bleach into people. Oh well. But I'm going to say this. Our health service, the NHS, is one of the best things this country's ever produced. And I've got a lot of respect for them. I really have. But the government let them down that time, didn't they? Thanks for the taps. But they really let us down. They really did. When the guys at the top, who are meant to be looking out for us, don't even bother to follow their own fucking rules. Makes you wonder what would have happened if someone other than Boris Johnson had been Prime Minister. Or, for that matter, if someone other than Donald Trump had been President of America. Perhaps if this had happened or Obama had been President. But that's another thought for another day. I think I'm going to leave this for you now to think about. I know TikTok records these, and they're available for me to download for, was it a month? So I'm going to leave you with this thought. I say that, but my mind's just gone completely fucking blank. Yeah, I know what I'm going to say. Never forget what happened during that time. Because even with all the shit going on in the world now, for me that was the darkest piece of my history. It really was. The darkest thing I've ever experienced, a pandemic. And I feel sorry for all the families that lost loved ones. I really do. I have a great deal of respect for all the healthcare professionals that helped us get through it. But I don't have the respect for the government anymore. Well, the government at that time. They really had no idea. They really had no idea what was going on or how to handle it. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So to everyone who's been watching this, thank you for me putting up with my ramblings, as it were. Like I said, I've done this without any notes, so I've just gone on my memories of that time. I might write something about it on my blog. I mean, if you want to read my blog and some of the things I wrote about at the time, or look back at some of the old podcasts that I did, then it's all on my blog. The link is in my profile. Click it out. So thanks for watching. Thanks for everyone who passed through this little room and watched me in this box. I'm not really a natural in front of the camera. That's why I've been doing the live chat thing, seeing how I go on that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the taps. Don't know what I was expecting to get from this, just so hopefully someone would watch it. Bye. Watch it. Bye. Bye.